So with this brief video, I want to address a myth of Love is Blind and the reason why many people are commenting the Jimmy and Jessica situation as, oh, Jessica doesn't get the point of the show. Or people who talk about physical appearance in the pods don't get the point of the show. They shouldn't. So, provided that I agree that probably is not appropriate to talk about physical appearance while in the pods, I also feel like we can't completely discount the fact that eventually people will see each other and that by nature of relationships you need physical and non-physical attraction to the person you are with. So in my opinion, the show is slightly flawed because it starts in a scenario where people don't see each other and they are restricted in the pods without phone, without access to real life, and they can create a bond. However, the show then bleeds into real life, obviously, with a real engagement. And so the engagement then to survive actually has to follow the rules of real life. And real life is physical and non physical attraction. So when people tell me the point of the show is to fall in love sight unseen, I think that this is true for the first part of the show. And this would be true if the show didn't force the contestants to then get engaged and married in real life. But I think that forcing them to get engaged and forcing them to have a wedding ceremony where they have to say yes and no, it actually pushes the boundaries a little bit and pushes people into facing the hard reality. They can't fall into a situationship where they will develop their relationship and kind of have time to figure out things. They fall into a very specific kind of formal environment, which is that of the marriage. And obviously, the contestants are then required to pressure test their relationship. And if it's not solidly based on both physical and non-physical relationships, it will fall apart. So the point of the show is partly to fall in love sight unseen, but it's also partly proving that this relationship stays on. Now, when relationships are successful in the show, I disagree that they are successful sight unseen or because love is blind. I think they succeed because the blind part of the show has worked, but also the non-blind part of the show. The physical attraction has worked out, and also other things worked out, a relationship with your parents, with the families, and so on and so forth. So let's not forget about those. So I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that the point of the show is really to fall in love sight unseen and that's it. I think the great side of the show is that it really demonstrates to us what would happen if we were to really begin dating and begin the dating process, begin dating somebody sight unseen. And so focusing more on the non-physical aspects, focusing more on the bond between two people without involving families, friends, and other parts of the environment. So I think from that point of view, that's something we can all learn from. It would be great to start dating somebody and really focusing on the non-physical attraction. However, what the show also demonstrates us is that one, real life is very different than a confined space. You have a lot of pressure from your friends, from your families. You have a lot of pressure from looking at other people. And then you have the physical appearance part, which will always be there. I want to say that all the couples that succeeded in Love is Blind were both attracted to each other mentally and non-mentally. Or at least there was a range of physical attraction that was acceptable to a point that the rest of the attraction was compensating for everything. And so, of course, the relationship was worth pursuing. So I don't think that people who talk about physical appearance don't get the point of the show. I think it's just one more demonstration of how relationships are built with many different components and not just intellectual and non-physical attraction. So this is to say that, in my opinion, Jessica didn't say anything wrong by telling Jimmy, "You're gonna choke when you see me," for several reasons. Number one, she already had demonstrated her non-physical capacity. I think she had really put herself forward. She had been very vulnerable with Jimmy, with her letter, with expressing her feelings, and with showing, the good and bad sides of her attitude. They also fell apart a little bit when she said that she had a baby, and he was disappointed. She was disappointed by his reaction. So I think Jimmy has a kind of a read on Jessica's non-physical appearance, and that's why he chose Chelsea. So there is some reasoning there, but I think, again, Jessica demonstrated herself truly and truthfully. Uh, and then, in a moment of frustration, she probably kind of served a little bit of a childish vendetta and revenge, telling him, "Oh, you'll see, you made this choice, but you'll see, you will regret it." So I think she said something humanly very acceptable. And I think, in the great scheme of things of the show, it really made sense, because until that point, she really didn't bring up the physical appearance. So I will give her a pass for this. And then the other thing is that I give her a pass because she knows that the show is going to end up in real life, and so she knows that physical appearance will actually matter. Considering overall the dynamic between her, Jimmy, and then Chelsea and Jimmy, I would also want to say that it's clear that Chelsea in the pods proved to be emotionally maybe more mature than Jessica. It is true that, to Jimmy's eyes, she reacted better to some of the comments and the discussions that they had, and that she was more present for Jimmy, and more understanding and more empathetic. I think it's also true that outside of the pods, in real life, she proved to be very, very uneasy, and lacking a lot of confidence and self-confidence, and needing a lot of reassurance from Jimmy. So I think, once again, this demonstrates that the show in the pods works a certain way, but then outside works in a very different way, which is the real life way, where people will be influenced by the outside environment, will go back to their fears, will go back to all the relationship and attachment problems that they might have. To this point, I will say that I think that Chelsea behaved very well in the pods, because she felt that in that environment, Jimmy couldn't be swayed by other things, and by the looks, and by the opinion of friends, and by hanging out with his friends or his girlfriends, and so on and so forth. In the outside, the real world showed itself for what it is. People have friends, people have relationships, and your partner sometimes don't approve of your relationships, or your relationships make you feel less confident and more threatened. This is what happened to Chelsea. So here is another point to prove, in my opinion, that the point of the show is to start in a very specific situation, but end in real life, and show us the contrast of these two different situations, both when we're talking about physical attraction, but also when we're talking about emotions, and when we're talking about attachment styles. The attachment styles in the pods is by nature going to be biased, and then in real life, it probably falls into more traditional routines of a specific individual. So I wanted to say this because I'm not tired of hearing people talking about, "Oh, this is not the point of the show." I'm not upset about that, but it really got me thinking that it might seem that the point of the show is really to be falling in love sight unseen. In reality, the show is really split in two parts. And I feel that, while it's true that the first part is really like Love is Blind, the second part is rather a question: is love blind? And what is out there that might make the love not blind? And so I kind of, give a pass to all of the people that have had made comments on physical appearance, or that made comments on other things that are probably absolutely not relevant in the pods, but that then become really important, relevant, and real in real life. So here's my take. Tell me what you think. Leave your comment, leave your question, your reaction, and if you like this video, subscribe, because I'm gonna talk more about Love is Blind and what I think it's truthful, not truthful, and how I think it applies in real life. Thank you.